There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this meeting of the Tampa account engagement / Pardot community group. Today we have a special guest presenter, Jacob Phillip, coming to us from Toronto, Canada. He is going to be talking about a topic that is very pertinent kind of right now, which is around new rules that came out from Gmail, Google, and Yahoo around mass mailers and requirements. And Jacob, he posted something on LinkedIn a little while ago about how he had come up with a solution for himself and his clients that I thought was pretty neat. And so I reached out and asked if he actually was told about it. And then I reached out to him and said, "Hey, would you be interested in presenting about this?" And he said, "Sure." So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Jacob and enjoy. All right, Jacob. I'm going to be on mute and kind of off video, but I'll be here listening still. So feel free to share your screen. Wait, can you guys not hear me at all? Astrid says, I can hear background noise, but no Ben.
I can hear you.
Okay, that's odd. All right. Okay, you can hear me. All right, sorry. Astrid had me. I was like, oh no, I'm just talking and no one's hearing me. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so I will, I'm gonna come off, I'm gonna go on mute and come off video, and then you can share your screen and start your presentation. Cool?
Yeah.
All righty, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you for having me speak to your community, Ben. Yeah, so let's get a quick overview. As you know, there are a lot of mailer changes for delivery to Google and Yahoo. And one of the things that's always challenging is to find out who is actually on Google or Gmail or Google Workspace in order to be able to assess the impact and prioritize the importance of the work for this kind of deliverability change and to justify it to management. So that's what we'll be talking about today. If you take a look in the chat, I have pasted in the link to the presentation we'll be going through. There is some code there that's available for you to use that'll automate some of the stuff that we'll talk about. And before we jump in, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have been in the marketing operations space since 2013, so 10 years, a bit of a old hand at this. I've used Acton, started off with Acton and Sugar CRM, and then have been a consultant for large enterprises on Eloqua, companies like Bloomberg, Oracle. And then I have been an in-house marketing operations leader for 6 years, 5 of them on Pardot, and now I'm at Avik Networks. I've been there for about a year, leading a team doing marketing operations. So I've seen a lot of this stuff, and that's basically the intro. I'm just going to share the screen here, and let me know if you're seeing a vortex of infinity. We'll take a look at, we'll start the slideshow. Ben, please speak up if anything major is happening, because I can't see the...
You're all good.
Okay, so I've introduced myself, and for those of you in Tampa, Florida, I am from Toronto, Canada. You've probably seen Canadians, but they mostly look like this lady and gentleman on the right. That is because I am the larva stage of a Canadian. We only make it down south when we're in the adult stage. So the background for our conversation is the new mailer guidelines that will come into effect in February 2024. They have a lot of people aflutter. If you've been on LinkedIn, it's time to freak out and the house is on fire. Well, marketing as we know it will die. I respect Eddie a lot, but things are not that extreme. those changes that are coming up are actually very just the growth of what's there right now, and best practices that most of us should have been following already. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're talking about is if you're mailing more than 5,000 emails a day, and that means, I imagine it means not just on average, but like if you have spikes of 40,000 or 5,000 in one day, and you don't mail that much in other days, you still have to meet these conditions to deliver to Google and Yahoo. Um, you need to have your SPF and DKIM authorization in place. This is a clarification that came in a little bit after the announcement. Before you could get away with or either one or the other. Now you gotta have both of them. You need valid forward and reverse DNS. So basically, if you are on a dedicated IP, you need to work with your marketing automation solutions vendor to make sure that you can not just that your domain special sending name translates to an IP address. There's a separate setup to translate back from the address to a readable domain. If you're on Eloqua, that's a common step that's missed, if I remember correctly. You got to keep your Postmaster Tools report spam rate under 0.3%. Postmaster Tools is something that's available to you once you can get this for free, I believe, but you have to verify your domain ownership. It gives you very little information about what Gmail can see about your emails, but one of the things it does show is the spam rate. And you need to have one-click unsubscribe or list unsubscribe header. This one is a little bit tricky because I have a hot take. This one is very impractical because if you've sent email to large audiences, you've probably seen some spam protection spam bots that click every single link in your email. And if you have true one-click unsubscribe, then those bots will just unsubscribe everybody who's using spam protection. So this one I think will play out over time. We'll see how strict it is. I really like the wordtothewise.com blog. They analyze all this stuff in depth. They have an analysis for you. Okay, moving on to the meat and potatoes of this session is, okay, so the challenge, you need to maybe justify the resources to implement all of that stuff we've talked about to comply with Gmail rules. But you may not know how many Gmail people or recipients are in your database. If you're a B2C mailer, so if you're sending email to individual consumers, it's a little bit of a silly question. You just look for anybody with @Gmail in their address. That's simple if you're emailing, if you're running an e-commerce store that's aimed at individual consumers. Remember, look at not just gmail.com, but Gmail has different domains. So gmail.kr, whatever country domain level, you got to count those too. It's pretty simple. I'll give you some more, if you're a business to consumer mailer, some more interesting advice is coming, but it's a simple task to accomplish. But if you're a business to business mailer, if you are dealing with businesses, they might be running Google Workspace behind the scenes. They might have their own custom domain, but actually using Google to power their email, and they're subjected to these new changes, and you're going to be impacted by them. But it's not as easy as just finding people who have Gmail in their address. Now, that's a real conundrum, and I'll talk to you about one way to find out what they're running behind the scenes and how to answer this question. Now, one way to solve this is, I believe that Pardot still has a tool that shows you an email client breakdown. So you can at least use that to find out how many people are on Gmail. It looks like this. And Ben, please chime in if that's been taken away from Pardot.
No, that's still there. That's still there.
So one way to find out is if you had a recent mailing to a large portion of your database, it'll give you a good snapshot of what percent of your database does use Gmail. But if you're not on Pardot, it's not that simple. Most other marketing automation tools don't have this kind of neat feature built in. You could pay for Email on Acid, their email analytics package. I think it works by putting a pixel into your emails and it finds out the same information. I think Pardot uses Email on Acid or its competitor behind the scenes to actually run this report. It's not cheap. It's $179 a month for the tier that gives you this. Or there's a simpler solution. You could look at the MX DNS record behind the domains in your database. Now let's look into what that is and learn a bit more about email infrastructure. So the MX record is something that's attached to your domain, just like if you want to visit somebody's website, you enter mydomain.com, it translates behind the scenes into the IP address of a computer you can talk to. Same thing goes with the MX record. It tells you which computer can handle email on behalf of example.com. And you can use existing command line tools to look it up. If you're on Windows, it's a tool called NSLookup. If you're on Mac, it's a tool called Dig, and I believe also they might have NSLookup. Now I'm gonna share my screen. We'll quickly do an example. Maybe Ben, since you've got audio, you can be our example person. You can go NSLookup. So the way you bring up the command prompt is you go start button CMD and click that. NSLookup, and we can say, yeah. Ben, do you have a domain you'd like to look up the email handler for?
Sure. I'll come back on my video. So I am okay. So I go into I'm on Windows and I'm gonna go into the
Oh, actually, I could share the screen if you can see.
Yeah.
Let's actually just use my company Aavik as an example. So inside the NSLookup tool, we can say, if you just look up aavik.com, you get that web address, you get the number that's corresponding to our website, but we want the email handling system that's gonna handle the receive commercial email, etc. So we say set type.
We can't see anything on your screen.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
Are you sharing a different? Is it not a different screen?
Let's try and share my whole window, entire screen. Thanks for letting me know. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, I can see that.
So basically, if you can see, I'm gonna show you where the command line is again. You press the start, the Windows button, and type in CMD, and it's gonna show you the command prompt. So we're at the command prompt. We go to NSLookup, and we type in, let's say, www.aavik.com, and you've got information about the computer that's hosting our website. But let's get more specific and look up the MX record for the mail handler. We say set type to MX. Now we're gonna find the MX record, and then we say aavik.com. What do we see? Any idea what we use behind the scenes, Ben? To power our email infrastructure?
You use Google.
That's right. This is what it looks like when you use Google Workspace. So we can find out on our own computer without having to send an email out to ovic.com to find out, what email client we're using. So I'll go on. I'm just going to change the way that I share the screen again. And we'll get back to the presentation. Okay. Let me know if there are any problems with the slideshow. Okay, so we just took a look at the command line tool, but you can also look up records in bulk by using a really user-friendly tool called MX Toolbox. Now, one at a time lookups are free, but you want to look at your whole database ideally, or a big portion of it, to tell how much of what portion are on Google Workspace or Google. You can do 500 lookups for free with their free trial, and I recommend this as a rough idea to justify the impact of these changes, or the cost of changes for compliance with your managers. And for a bigger database, it'll take about $129 a month at least. But you can also do this for free. You can script those that NS lookup command that we saw in the command line. You could just have it read a file with domains and iterate through all of them and tell you what kind of server they're using for their mail. It's unlimited free results. You don't need to send a mail out to your entire database like you would with the Pardot built-in tool that we looked at. And it takes about 12 seconds on my laptop to look up 100 domains. So this kind of gives you an idea. You probably don't want to run a whole million domains in your database through this, but maybe 10,000 newest contacts in your database will give you a good idea of what systems people are using behind the scenes. And I have a screenshot coming up next about what this MX Toolbox paid interface looks like with their results. So there's your domains you looked up, IP address, servers, and they also interpret things for you. On the far right there, email provider, you can see Microsoft Office, Google, Barracuda, Email Essentials, Barracuda and Proofpoint, and maybe even Mimecast. They are spam protection systems that you put in front of your email handling interface. Now, usually you'd script the automation for the command line on your own, but hey, I've done it for you. So basically, you can use something, a variation of command line that you've seen called PowerShell. It's built into Windows. And here are the examples. You can copy and paste this code into a file called lookup.ps1. You run this set execution policy script before you run the file. And here's your input for the domains output. And it just, all it does is it runs this NS lookup command for you. And just over and over going down the line.
This is it's an interesting solution, and this is a like contextually this is something that is obviously very manual. It's definitely not a input a bunch and then just click it and then it goes and it runs on a bunch of different domains at once. But this is probably valuable if you're a large B2B volume sender. My instinct when using this would be to say, okay, I've got all these records, all these people who I email, and then within those, look at the ones that are perhaps the most promising prospects or most valuable customers. And while you want to be compliant, broadly, those are the ones that you want to know. Be like, I know that these people are on Google, are running their stuff through Google. And so if we have a contingency plan or a kind of a second level of compliance that are more white glove, or maybe we want to limit our outbound to these people to be lower volume sends, just to kind of make sure that you don't run afoul of these new rules. Take them out. They basically create two email sends. Create the email send for everyone else, and then that same email send to a much smaller group of people who run through Google, and you would be more reticent to include them in a large thousands of email send that you don't necessarily know the provenance of that domain. You haven't done the investigation of what is behind the domain, but these are the ones that you have because of their level of value to the company, and the need to make sure that you don't run afoul of that rule.
And I think that's a great idea to segment them out. I would say only do that if it's actually a heavy lift to comply with the Google guidelines. Like if you just ran out of time, it's February, your SPF and DKIM is not set up. Like you can use this to segment and handle them differently. Maybe keep your volume under that 5,000 a day. Spread out your emailing over a month, right? But if you have the capacity, if you've got the energy and resources, you should be complying with the Google guidelines. They're a good idea anyway, and they actually protect you from impersonation, like those SPF and DKIM setups. Unsubscribes, they help you comply with legal laws around email around the world. So if you can put your energy into complying, but if you run out of time, it's a great idea to have your danger risky list of Google Workspace recipients on the side.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to call that out, just kind of like to bring it back to the practical application of like as a maybe even like a one person or two person marketing ops team. If you've got these, just to make sure, like for people who are watching this is very technical and might be a little over people's heads. But if you're able to kind of understand this, and then, like you said, if it's too big of a lift, or if it's going to require a lot of organizational change, then you can do that. But also, the ones that you are most worried about, segment them out and say, okay, while we work ourselves out organizationally around compliance, these are the ones that we are going to make sure that we're good on, because or that we know that Google is that they use Google Workspaces, so we don't run afoul, because they're the ones that are these are addresses that are very valuable, and we need to know as much as possible about them, so we don't oversend to them.
Mm-hmm. And there are other benefits to finding out what people are running behind the scenes that are coming up next. It's not just about compliance. You'll get some other tips from me later on. So this script basically automates all that manual lookup that you've seen me do in the command line. The output is a CSV like this. It just takes care of lots of lookups for you. Additional notes. Original use case that we use this for on our team at Alvik is to make a business case for BIMI. So BIMI is once you are fully compliant with a lot of these email deliverability guidelines, you are able to start registering your logo officially and have it show up in Gmail next to the sender name. And this is kind of a visual call out that Gmail is using as a bit of a reward or incentive to get people to comply with all the best practices around deliverability. It also costs a little bit of money. It costs about $1,400 a year to go through that process and register your trademark in a verifiable way. And we didn't actually know how many people in our database are using Google Workspace behind the scenes, because we're a B2B company. Most of them actually don't allow Gmail in our database, and we were wondering who's running Gmail behind the scenes in their domain. So this let us see that about 20% of our database was on Gmail, and we can figure out what kind of lift we expect from BIMI and to make that financial expenditure case. Another thing that you can do with this tooling, once you know what people are running behind the scenes, is to check if your HTML email designers can go wild on the latest email design trends and HTML tags and approaches that are supported in Gmail, but maybe not in Yahoo or old Outlook. So this is a fast way of finding out what portion of your database can actually handle Google specific HTML because they're running on Gmail. This can also help you find those firewall email firewall vendors, Proofpoint, Mimecast, etc. All of them sit again in front of G Suite or in front of Outlook 360. So you, in those cases, you just see the firewall. You don't know what people are actually running in the backend, but sometimes that's what you need. We have run into issues with bot clicks, etc., where everybody who's on Proofpoint is looking like they're clicking every single email, every single link in an email. And so we could tell that because that's the common ground with all the problematic contacts, we knew that we had run afoul of Proofpoint's email protection. We knew that we got blacklisted. And so this is just more information for you when you really get in depth with troubleshooting why you're getting bots or why you're getting blocked. Just a bit of a nerd note. I talked about, customizing your emails for Google supported features. Just because they're running Google Workspace doesn't mean their email client is Google. Because just remember that the infrastructure that's running your email isn't exactly the systems that's displaying the email. I'm running my own email on my own website, jacobphillip.com, using a self-hosted email from my web provider, but I'm using a different app, an open source app on my phone to read the email. So that email app really determines what's able to be displayed in graphically in emails. And again, if you're on Pardot, that's built-in report of email clients is what you're looking for in terms of HTML design. But there's a lot of overlap here. And I'll wrap up and we'll have time for questions. My shameless plug or call to action is, hey, connect with me at jacob@jacobphillip.com or on LinkedIn. Check out my sites. I write about marketing operations. I've done some original research recently about monitoring all of the marketing and automation vendors for how they maintain deliverability, how good they are at deliverability on their shared IP ranges. It's original research. There's also a bunch of weird stuff and junk. Again, I use my website to promote my personal brand, which is comfortable, reliable, and present in a time of crisis. Everything you'd want from an adult diaper like me. I don't take this web stuff too seriously. And if you are embarking on a project that is art, research, marketing operations, public speaking, whatever, get in touch and I'll be your cheerleader. Let's move on to questions.
All right, thank you. If anyone has a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I know that Marianne said that she can see using this as part of list ingestion. Nicole said, thank you, I learned a lot. So there may not be questions, but I think, I mean, this was really, really good. I appreciate you going kind of down the rabbit hole a bit technologically. I think people will get a lot of value of this out of this in the future after I post this and so on. So I guess my question would be, so this is good. Have there been any, so like when you've been doing this for yourself or for your clients or whomever or your customers, have there been things that surprised you, like when you put it in, were there things that the outcome of it was not, or it, like what the outcome said one thing, but your experiences with emailing them, for example, maybe were different? Was there anything notable that, or any kind of conflict that existed from running this on a domain versus the practicality of of emailing them, or has it been pretty smooth?
I think the big notable item was during that BIMI business case construction. Basically, at Aavik, we cater to very heavily IT smart, like very IT savvy buyers. They are our customers, are companies that provide outsourced IT to other companies, and
Mm-hmm.
also IT teams inside big organizations that can afford their own IT team. So, what I learned from that is um, that our customer base is running like custom servers, like their own thing. They're not on Microsoft 360. They're not on Google Workspaces. They are comfortable enough to be running like their own servers, their own infrastructure for email handling, and that was very unusual. Like I haven't worked in an environment like that, but it made sense in retrospect that they don't shy away from that. And it also means that, like for our business, um, I'm going to get a little bit into deliverability. And by the way, for our participants today, feel free to ask me any questions you have about deliverability, compliance, and bot clicks and dealing with bots. It's kind of a related topic that I can talk about today. What it means that so many of our customers run their own systems is that they are also more likely to be reliant on block lists. So Spamhaus, Sorbs, and SpamCop. You might have heard of block lists. They used to be a very big part of um, they're like a great shared resource of finding out where the spammers are, so that people don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. They're kind of, you're pulling resources all together, and there's one place where you can find all the worst spammers. That's Those block lists are less important now because than they are in the past, because we have such dominant monopoly, like oligopolies inside the email provider space. We've got Gmail and we've got Microsoft and Apple, and that's pretty much it. If you're
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're a B2C e-commerce customer, you're having to deal with them. Your life is very simple, but it also means that they have their own special email filtering, their own spammer catching routines. They don't use block lists. They are so big that they can do a better, smarter job than all these block list providers. So the smaller people, smaller players use block lists. And what we found is our customers are those kinds of small players that run their own systems. And being on a block list for us was a bigger deal than it is for a B2C marketer that's only dealing with Gmail and Outlook 360 or Apple.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. I would definitely like to have you come back again if there's something else that you want to discuss. Um, Consider it an open invitation. Just reach out and we can get something on the calendar. I'm going through your blog right now, and there's some interesting stuff in here. I'd be very interested, maybe in the next maybe in the new year, to do a session around castle compliance for around for Pardot people. people who are using Pardot. I mean, you've got a few really good blog posts in here, but it'd be great if we could do like a live conversation about it.
Apart from lawyers, I mean, I've done this fun project where I've read every single castle enforcement action in Canada that are posted on the Canadian regulators' site. Apart from a bunch of lawyers, I think I'm the only person who's done that in the marketing operations space. So you get a really interesting sense about how email regulation works and how like even insights into how a regulator thinks, where they have very few resources, but they have to herd all these cats, all these marketers, and get them to follow the rules without expending like a ton of resources.
I know that, and I know that anecdotally in the U.S. when you start talking about compliance, email compliance, it's always CAN spam and not HIPAA, but
CCPA.
Yeah. No, not even. Well, barely even that. It's really CAN spam and then GDPR in Europe. And I always am like, well, you guys don't forget Canada has their own too, and there's very little knowledge around exactly how that works and how it's similar or different. So that could be an interesting conversation to talk specifically about Castle and things that email marketers should be aware of if you are marketing to Canadians in Canada via email marketing. Marianne had a question about talking about the security bots that click on all the links. Any mitigation for reporting?
I was hoping we'd get to that. I think spam bots are a fascinating topic, and I think it's a hot topic because it's been on the rise where you do get 1 million clicks. And one of the cases that sparked that original deliverability research project that I mentioned was we had 80,000 extra visits on our site in one day, which is like double our monthly total from something. And it threw off all our stats. It MQL'd like 400 leads. Our salespeople are getting, hot prospects that are clicking on emails, but they're all bots. They're all fake. Lots of headaches. So Marianne's situation does happen. And it turned out that all of that traffic and all of those clicks came from bots. They came from spam protection systems that pretend to be a regular email recipient. And what they do is they click through every link in your email to make sure that the destination page is not malicious, that they don't have, you're not selling Viagra and you're not installing spyware once you go hop through all those redirections and reach the destination. The reason why they're clicking every single link is that with modern marketing automation systems, every link is customized to be unique to the recipient. And because that's how we track those recipients and their activities. Jacob has his own link to the homepage, and so does Ben, his own link to the same homepage. And that's how we differentiate them. But the spam system sees them as two unique links, so we're going to click every one of them. For reporting, I will say that if you are using Pardot, go to my website or do a Google search with jacobphilip.com. There is a list of known spam protection servers that I compiled that's newer than the built-in one inside Pardot. That one will make a bit of a difference for you. Those are systems that are coming from Proofpoint, Mimecast, all of those spam protection systems. So if a bunch of clicks are coming from there, they'll be hidden from the Pardot interface and the Pardot reports. That's one small step. The difficulty is that the whole point of these spam protection systems is to look like a real user. They're not going to be coming from a stereotypical host that says, hey, Proofpoint security. They want to be coming from a variety of computers that look like regular people. And that's recently, like Proofpoint, for example, that's what they do. When you troubleshoot them in the reports, every click looks like they're coming from a different computer, and it's got a different user agent. So sometimes it looks like Safari, the next click looks like their Firefox, the next one is looking like it's Internet Explorer. In some systems, for example, in Marketo, there are sophisticated protections that look at if too many clicks are happening in 1 second, they know it's a bot, so it classifies it as a bot. Marketo does a fantastic job at filtering out those bot clicks, but sometimes things fall through the cracks. So, for example, if it takes, 2 clicks take 2 seconds between each other instead of 1 second, well, that's it. That fools the system. And then they look like regular clicks. My suggestion, this is a very long-winded answer. My suggestion for your reporting is, first of all, if you're doing lead scoring off of email clicks, you need to change the way you do lead scoring. Try to imagine what would happen if a bot clicks 10 links within the span of 1 minute. Maybe you can put a timer on those on your lead scoring that says if somebody clicks 5 links within 5 minutes, like stop scoring, or only accumulate this much score from clicks within a given day. That'll help. For reporting, we're kind of out of luck in the war against bots, because those businesses' entire model is to pretend that they're real people and go through those links to verify that you're not serving up junk. You and I are never going to outsmart those businesses, because that's 1/50th of the things we think about as marketing operations people. For them, it's their entire business of how do I look like a human and not like a bot. What I advise is that if you're getting those clicks, it makes a really good business case for changing your mailing practices, so you're not on those block lists, you're not deemed suspicious. And for us at our business, it meant moving off of the shared IP range to getting a dedicated IP, because the problems that we encountered with the bots, they were coming from our neighbors on the IP range. We weren't sending out anything on the days when we're getting all this scrutiny and clicks. It was really our neighbors getting blacklisted, and we were suffering from the fallout. So it makes sense to buy a dedicated IP address. And then it also encourages you to manage your own mailings and reputation in a better way. Maybe not over hammering people with email. The other thing I'm going to say for our participants here is bot clicks are like an extra layer of scrutiny. So your email is not being blocked. It's just that Proofpoint and those firewall vendors are more suspicious, and they're taking you through an extra layer of security. So they're not bounces, and it's a leading indicator that something is going wrong somewhere. Like you are either on a block list or you've tripped some sort of proprietary markers that say that this is a spammer. You hit some spam traps or something like that, and it's a really good signal to listen up and review what you've sent out that day or the previous day when you're getting all these weird clicks. Not a lot of people are talking about spam bots, and they're becoming a bigger issue, like professionally over the past couple of years. I've really had to deal with coming up with plans, and a lot of times they're reflected. They look like, hey, we suddenly have 400 junk MQLs. Where did they come from? And so now you have this fire over here, but the problem is way over there in your email system.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, there are no other questions, so I think we'll just wrap it up. Thank you, Jacob, for taking the time to chat with us. This will be up on the community group page, the recording, once I get it up on YouTube, and it will live on in infamy, like everything else that you've done. Yeah, like I said, feel free to come back again. I'm kind of wandering around your blog. There's a few things here that I think might be interesting topics that could be interesting conversations in 24. So I'll reach out to you separately about those, see which you'd be interested in talking about. But thank you everybody for joining and taking the time. This was super informative, and I appreciate it. Everyone have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are joining us. And have a happy holiday season and a happy new year. The next meeting will probably not be until January. I don't have anything else scheduled. So look for the next meeting, probably January in 2024.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.